Well, I gotta talk some CFL football as I found an interesting article on the Three Down Nation, which is kind of the unofficial source to look for when it comes to the CFL news and potential, inside information. But the CFL, as we know, that they canceled the 2020 regular season with the combination of the global pandemic with COVID-19, as well as the failed attempt to get government funding to host a bubble in Winnipeg, as there was an idea of having CFL football all played in the bubble in Winnipeg. That would have started around now and play a partial season and eventually award the 2020 Grey Cup. But I'll pull out the smartphone and look at this article on Three Down Nation. Now you got to wonder where they plan on what's going to happen for the 2021 season. Doesn't say too much, but I'll just give you my feelings and take on it. But it says CFL evaluating Edmonton as a potential bubble city for 2021. So Edmonton evaluating the viability and potential of hosting CFL football in a bubble model for 2021. As you know, Edmonton successfully hosted the bubble when it comes to the NHL playoffs and the Stanley Cup, as ultimately there were no COVID cases at all, even with Toronto being a bubble city as well for the Eastern Conference, and then the Conference Championship and the Stanley Cup Final all were played in Edmonton, and there were no COVID cases, and Edmonton will be hosting a bubble model again as the World Junior Hockey Championship, should say, that happens over the holiday season, will also be hosting the tournament in its entirety to get the championship done that way. But according to Rod Peterson, who is one of the insiders for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, is Edmonton is being looked at as a bubble city for 2021, which, you almost got to wonder why they're looking at it now, or they didn't do this, potentially earlier and maybe try to do a better job to get government funding, which, there's still debate on, should the government spend money for the CFL to prop them up during these times. It's the government restrictions why fans are allowed at the game, and the business model for the CFL needs to have fans in attendance. But if they're looking at potentially having a bubble for the CFL next season, that shows the confidence that, I'm not too sure if I'm going to be going to sporting events next season, being allowed to, and just being comfortable in general. And then you got to wonder how many fans will be at the game. I guess it all depends on what happens with hockey. But getting back to the article, it says the federal government approved Toronto and Edmonton as hub cities, with the NHL return to plan with their 2014 playoffs, and ultimately it was successful, where there were no cases. The Stanley Cup got awarded, and then Winnipeg was tentatively chosen as a hub city for this season, but then there was no government funding as well that was approved, even though you can debate about how much the government or the league was asking for the government, and they turned them down. But that's all it just talks about, and that of course it says Prime Minister Justin Trudeau knows that the CFL is important to many Canadians, but that doesn't mean the prudent to allow the league to play during the virus unless medical guidelines are conformed to. So you got to wonder, how is it going to work if indeed there's the 2021 season? Will be in a bubble, but I would say if the league is already looking at it, they're assuming that they're not going to be able to play with fans next season. And is it everybody going to be in the bubble? And then also how long? Because one idea that, yes, it worked for the NHL and the NBA. Let's not forget the NBA, that they were able to get their playoffs in and eventually award the NBA championship, the Larry O'Brien Trophy. There were no COVID cases, but it's just players with families and lives and responsibilities basically being isolated, and that's where players are going to push back, and that's why the NHL is not likely looking at doing that for next season. But with next season being around not until June, and then already the league's taking a hit where you're not having football this season, nothing showing on TV, and then the fact that there's no new revenue coming in because payment from tickets were suspended, and And the case with many fans is that their tickets that they would have spent for this season is getting pushed towards next season, so there's still no revenue coming for the league. I know they had that put your Grey Cup fan base, which as much as a CFL fan as I am not going to spend that much money, especially during these times. It'd be something unique, and unless someone gifts it to me on my behalf, I'm not asking for it. But if it happens, that's the only way that's going to happen for me. But the article doesn't say much. It's just they're looking at the idea, and I would still think the CFL. The only way this will work is if they get assistance elsewhere. And I'm thinking if the government wasn't willing to help to get a partial season in this season, and of course you have to have the players okay, with going to the bubble. I mean, it's just going to be partially to start the season, and maybe have fans back in attendance towards the end of the season, then eventually have the Grey Cup in Hamilton in 2021. I mean, who knows? It's just giving my little feelings on this article that the idea is being looked upon, but I think that you almost got to think, how come this wasn't looked upon a little sooner when things were starting to get shut down? That maybe there could have been a little more traction, and the league would have made a better case to try to get some government funding, or also the fact that this is a time for the league to try to find other ways to get money, if so they're not as reliant on fans, because they don't have a big US TV deal. I mean, it is what it is, but what do you think of it? I'll put the article in the description below. So as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home to Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, and now that there was no CFL football this season, there was no my Calgary Stampeders this month game recaps, and there hasn't been too much to talk about when it comes to the CFL, other than the past where they were seeking government intervention, try to make this bubble model work, and then give my feelings on how this bubble model, and then ultimately I had to make the video where I talked about the season being cancelled, and then I talked about that Grey Cup fan base. So that's the only CFL videos that I've been able to talk about. But I also do personal vlogs, attempt at comedy, and I also do share my experience with them on the road or at a sporting event, which I haven't been doing those two activities this much this year for obvious reasons. But still, I have stuff in the past on this channel, so if that all sounds like it'd be interesting, wants to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you need to do. Just make sure you like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below for other ways you can follow me. So, yeah, it's been a while since I've been in the stands cheering on the Stampeders, but not too sure. I'm just a little mixed on this. Looking at, at least it's saying they're looking at the possibility of Edmonton being a hub city, and they were able to pull off the Stanley Cup Playoffs with no cases, and they'll beat the World Hockey Junior Hockey Championships at the end of the year and going into the new year, where hopefully Canada will win gold, but won't be in front of fans. But there has to be a lot needs to be changed, and also I think a lot won't change until there's an effective treatment option and or vaccine against COVID. But yeah, well, all everything remains to be seen. So as I go, Stamps go, and I'll see you in the next video.